necessarily a morally wrong trade-off to get in the car and drive at a certain blood alcohol level when there's a very serious, unexpected reason versus wanting it to become the norm that for people to just do it all the time for no good reason.
This was my entire problem with the whole Society Project group, was just like, you know, why start over, but then start over with the same fucked up system and just slightly modify it a little bit? Like, why not turn the entire thing upside down? And you know, because in a different world, you know, these social problems that we're all talking about in Society Project won't exist. You know, most of these issues are brought on by government taxation, you know, like the monetary system. You know, they the powers that be leave us in this desperate state. You know, they take as much as they can from us as possible. So, you know, and then thus crime comes of that, you know. And so if the government is creating an environment for crime, you know, like, why, if you're going to start over, why do that again? You know, like, that doesn't make any sense to me. I would argue with those guys all the fucking time about this shit, and they just, shut up, fucking anarchist guy. And it's like, okay, like,
this is what I kept saying to Carson, is none of these laws talking about what the law should be make any sense if you don't have a plan for enforcement. And a plan to deal with the natural corruption and degradation of enforcement. I mean, it's seriously like Carson's mentality was just, you decide what you think the world should be like, and then you pass a law, and then the world magically transforms to be like that.
No. Well, and like I kept telling him, like, all this, throw people in jail. I'm like, dude, you're throwing, like, there's a mental health issue going on here. If we're dealing with people that are killing each other, like killing others, there's obviously a mental health issue. Why would you throw them in jail? You know, like, that doesn't make any sense.
Make it
like,
worse.
We already have figured out that doesn't fucking work. You know, there's plenty of other ways of dealing with crime and misbehavior and bad actors.
You remember the tapping on the shoulder? I kept.
Dude,
I had a whole talk with Carson.
It got
I'm like, what should happen if somebody taps somebody on the shoulder and they don't want that? And
no,
he's like, well,
was that me and you versus those guys?
And then secondly, after being given a warning,
the most mind-numbing conversation I've ever had in my life.
And I'm going like,
they were saying, so these guys were saying, if you talk shit to someone, they should be able to come up and hit you. Like, that should be law.
Well, I mean, I don't necessarily believe that it should be law, but I believe that there's not, like, I don't believe in the sharp libertarian boundary.
Like these
anything that's non-physical is okay, and then anything that's physical is completely criminal. Like,
that was me in your position, and the whole panel, rest of the panel was just like, huh?
Wait, is that's your position, that there's that sharp boundary? Because that's very much not my position. I definitely believe that somebody could be harassing somebody for no reason, just being a fucking jackass, talking about, you know, their mother's sexual proclivities for a long time, and then if the second person, if the target of that language, like, pushes him, then I'm not gonna describe that as the pusher starting the fight. I'm gonna describe it as the guy
that's retarded,
talking shit starting the fight.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
And that's not to say that I want the law to enshrine.
Why? How would that make sense? Because escalating something into physicality, how would that make sense that should be legal? When I would say it's just words, and words don't hurt. That sounds like some lefty.
Well, a push doesn't hurt that much either. So you're begging the question.
Yeah, but that's escalating, and that's an assault.
No, you see, you're begging. Your phrasing here is begging the question. It's assuming the conclusion that anything physical is an escalation over anything verbal. And
of course,
and
it is.
According to common sense,
someone is absolutely an escalation. From conversation to a push is absolutely escalation.
Well, then
I don't know how you could not say that
then
that's not escalation.
you're just
So you don't believe in the
reasserting
non-aggression
conclusion.
principle.
That's not.
So you don't believe in the non-aggression principle. You call yourself libertarian, but you don't believe in the non-aggression principle.
I do not believe that that.
Did we find another reason why I don't think you're libertarian?
I don't. Can I answer your fucking question? I don't believe that that's in any way a common sense way to define aggression and levels of aggression. Is anything that spatially in physical terms involves like proximate contact between two bodies, even if it's like a little tap being aggression, and and the worst
value of the tap?
The worst the language that you can use against somebody for absolutely no reason, just coming up to a stranger out of the blue and talking shit, is always going to count as a lower level aggression.
So if someone comes out of the blue, and starts talking shit to that much aggression, that person probably has a mental health problem.
Yeah,
and
probably.
Escalating to violence probably isn't the best way of dealing with them.
You're begging the question with escalation, because I don't think that lightly pushing somebody away, that if you're able to put your body in between and create a physical barrier there, I don't think that the kind of push that doesn't cause any sort of pain or any sort of actual medical harm is definitionally an escalation over like hurling a bunch of slurs in
trying to get away from them. No,
something like
physical aggression is absolutely,
as a practical matter, the first thing to do is to try to back away
as a response to anything verbal. No,
I think in a society. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I think in a society where people might get violent because there are no laws protecting you, that people would be more polite and more tolerable and put up with more shit. Like if somebody was getting, heated or emphatic in an argument, it doesn't mean they're going to get violent. Now here,
I think I grew up in that society and I live in that society where at a certain point, if you talk shit, you get hit. And if everybody around knows who the person talking shit is, and including the deputy, they're not necessarily going to bring charges on the person who did the hitting.
Yeah.
Depending on the circumstances. If a crazy asshole is
John,
starting
where's the place you were saying where there's no laws?
No, I'm just saying theoretically.
Yeah, theoretically, where would there be no laws? Because
in an anarchist society,
if there was an anarchist society, there definitely would still be laws.
Natural law, common sense.
No, respect, there would still be like law enforcement, and like there wouldn't just not be laws.
Who would be the law enforcement? Are you saying it'd be a privately ran institution, maybe hired by a community?
Correct. Or there would be competing private security companies that would be basically voted on by the community's dollar, by the like good old fashioned, the highest quality for the lowest amount of money. In a truly free market, we can get stuff like that. But with governments and with everybody saying that we need some monolithic government controlling the laws in our society, we're always going to end up with what we have: a bunch of psychopaths with guns driving around, stealing money and ruining people's lives.
Well, Jeffrey, I am an ANCAP. I do believe that the services that are currently provided by geographical monopolies called governments can be much better on the market. And I think in terms of what customers are going to prefer on such a market, it's incredibly obvious to me that customers are not going to prefer the private market-based law enforcement punishment system that says anybody can come up to you in a bar and fucking verbally harass you to no end for no reason, and if you so much as lay a finger on them, then you're the one that's going to be imprisoned. People are not going to vote for that with their dollars. People are not going to do.
You know that's not how it is now, right?
Well, of course it's not.
But that's for good reason.
For good
reason. You think that
your description of the non-aggression principle implies something that nobody would vote with their dollars for.
You're still missing the point that if someone's walking up to you out of nowhere and starts screaming at you, that there's probably some other problem that shouldn't be met with violence.
Well, I mean, there may be some serious mental illness, especially if it's on the street.
Do you believe
we all know that there's
do you believe in castle doctrine, or should
anyone
dare? So okay, I got a good question then.
Castle
so
doctrine.
If someone breaks into my house and I catch them and they run out my house, should I chase them down the block and shoot them in the back?
No, of course. The way you phrase
that's
it,
the same thing. You're saying that's the same thing.
No, it's not.
Are they carrying your property?
I am not making a case.
I am
not making a case for unleashing maximum violence. I'm not making that case at all. No, Jeffrey, I'm saying right now that I'm not.
Dude. Assault is assault.
Are you? All right. Person A.
Okay. So they break into your house.
Person B starts trash talking them in a bar.
Okay. So what reason? For what reason?
Let me finish.
For what reason? You've already we need to.
Well,
if we're going to go over this a fourth time, let's at least get down to brass tacks.
Okay.
Why is this happening?
If you just fucking let me answer the question, okay? The kind of reason I'm thinking about is the very common actual reason of people who like to go to the bar, get drunk, and get in fights, because that's kind of the culture that they're in. Okay, they don't have schizophrenia, they're not profoundly mentally ill. They're just part of this dysfunctional culture. Okay,
douchebags.
That happens all the time. And what I'm saying to you is, if douchebag goes up in the way that they very often do, start verbally starting shit with somebody based upon whatever the bullshit reasons that douches come up with, like what your tattoo or your whatever sports team you're wearing a paraphernalia of, okay?
Yeah.
And then person B says, "Hey, get back, man!" And
what do you mean get back? Like the guy's cornered him in a room? Like you're talking about a very specific scenario that probably isn't very common.
I think this is quite common. Where
the dude can turn around and walk out the bar and not have a conflict.
But sometimes the person who's being approached by douchebag makes the first physical contact in the form of some kind of shove as they're getting up. Okay, does that then license douchebag, since he was not the quote unquote aggressor in your definition of aggression, to just fucking unload quote unquote defensively and beat the shit out of the person who shoved him out of the way? I don't think so. I think douchebag started the fight, and douchebag did the most extreme escalation, and it wasn't. It doesn't make douchebags fucking punching the guy in the face.
You're painting a story
justifiable because the target of douchebag made the first physical contact.
Okay, got it.
All you need is common sense. Hold on. Around that situation in your life to understand who the escalator is and who the douchebag is.
Yeah, but
and who society should.
So what if I buy some food from a restaurant and it makes me sick, and I go to the restaurant and I start yelling at the manager? Does he have the right, since he feels like he's being aggressed upon, to push me and escalate things? See, you're painting a story that's very specific, that's very unusual, and you're defending this entire position because of this one specific scenario where a guy's in a bar and he's cornered and he has to push a guy to get by him, which is what we're talking about.
I'll answer.
We're totally not talking about that.
I will answer your other scenario. I'll answer any scenario you bring up, Jeffrey. Okay, I'm not hiding anything. I'm saying that there's a continuum, and there's not a sharp, categorical line between with anything that doesn't involve physical contact on one side and anything that involves physical contact on the other. If the restaurant owner escalates from, in your words, escalates from this intense verbal, what? I'm I'm not going to say aggression because I don't want to beg the question, but intense verbal activity to a light shove, and then you who went into the restaurant escalate from that light shove into a fist fight, then I'm going to say yes, the escalation from light shove to fist fight is clearly a much greater degree of escalation than the verbal to the light shove could possibly be. Why? Because ethical consequentialism, okay, utilitarianism. A light shove is not going to put anybody in the hospital or kill them.
Well, how do you know that all these people that are in a fight are going to be able to control themselves? You're just allowing them. It's such a sketchy thing to fucking believe in, dude.
Why should the shover be any more responsible for the other person?
Words don't do anything, dude. Words are not physical.
Neither do light shoves, Jeffrey. That's the point.
Why should
the light shover be any more responsible for the reaction of somebody who might punch him in the face?
An argument, and he's going to be all confident because he knows he's allowed to shove first. So he's going to shove, and he might shove a little too hard. And how do you know that doesn't make the guy slip and fall and break his neck?
I don't think it's a good idea.
A certain amount of violence, which
I don't think it's a good idea. I'm not saying that this is what we
I
should
agree.
do. I'm not saying that this is what we should teach our. You keep telling me I'm saying the exact opposite of what I just denied.
You're saying right now you think the law should change and people should be able to push people because they hear things they don't like. So what if I go up to a trans person and call them a he?
That's already the case.
What if I call a trans person a he and they feel that like that's super aggressive and then they hit me?
Jeffrey, in practice, that's already the case. We don't need to change the law right now. If you ask what people in all sorts of towns all across,
but I don't agree with that because that's appealing to the crowd, bro. Come on, you know that's a fallacy.
Well, I'm just responding to what
I don't meet any people like that. So I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe where you're from, but not where I'm from.
The law will not
any school I've been to. If I hit someone for saying something mean to me, I'm going to the principal's office.
I'm explicitly saying that I do not.
That's like the right way of doing things.
It's not a good policy. It's not a good way of living your life. I'm not recommending it. You keep telling me yes.
You are recommending it. You're sitting here arguing it to the death. Never okay to respond with words with violence. Pushing someone is violence. I don't care if it's a tiny tap. What the fuck do you need to be tapping someone? What's the value of this tap?
What the fuck do you need to be verbally harassing someone either?
Yeah, if that person did something wrong, yeah, for sure.
Oh, okay. Well,
see, it's a super slippery slope where you're like, oh, you're allowed to push someone if you don't like what they're saying. But if they're wrong, then you're saying if they're wrong, then it's their fault.
None of your arguments are justifying this singular categorical boundary with everything physical on one side, no matter how slight, no matter how impossible that it would actually cause injury to someone. And then on the other side, you have no idea how much someone's going to injure someone ahead of time. Imagine not
verbal. There's no attack. There's no such thing as verbally attacking.
I mean, you're just using
an attack is a violent thing that is between two physical things. You're defining it that way.
You're defining it that way.
You're defining it that way.
You're begging the question. No, you are begging the question.
You just said attack. You sound like a lib, bro. What's up?
I sound like what I am, which is with common sense. You can understand that there are levels of verbal aggression that are more severe than the smallest amount of physical contact possible.
Yeah, this is the whole Canadian trans thing, trans getting mad and wanting to make a law saying that people have to address it correctly. This is exactly what it is.
Violence.
I said no such thing. Right now, I'm saying that I do not believe
absolutely the same thing. It's the most libby position.
You're just telling me I don't believe what I believe, and that I believe what I don't believe.
No, I'm telling you you're wrong. And I'm glad. I guess you're not in power because I wouldn't want to live somewhere where everyone can just.
I don't believe X, and you immediately say no. You believe X. A second
I'm
after
repeating
I just
what you said. You're saying it.
I have said nothing about nothing about the extent to which I think choosing not to use somebody else's preferred pronouns counts as aggression. And right now, I'm going to address that issue, and I'm going to say I absolutely do not think. I do not think that is aggression. What I think is aggression. What I think is proportional levels of aggression is that going up to somebody who didn't do shit to you at a bar and hurling a bunch of slurs at them, talking about
you
their
can
mother,
stand up and leave. If you're a smart person, you'd stand up and immediately leave.
I've already said to you many times.
To continue.
You don't need to.
No, hold on.
I've already said to you that is not what I would do, and that's not what I recommend. I don't think you should physically confront anybody who's verbally coming at you.
That's what you're saying.
No, it's not. What I'm saying is that
be okay.
No, it's not. I'm not saying
have a physical escalate from a verbal to a physical altercation.
You're defining it.
Okay.
You're defining something
because you grew up someplace where a bunch of people were like where you grew up. People weren't communicating correctly. So why would you change how things are in other places in a negative situation? Like these people that taught you to think that that's okay. Like those weren't people communicating correctly. Those weren't people socializing correctly. They were socializing in a negative way. So why would you?
Hey, let me hear.
I'm not just a direct product of my culture who isn't able to.
You just said 3 times, Joel. Oh, where I'm from, I can find anyone who would say that it's okay to hit someone if they're talking shit to you.
Not just where I'm from, man. And I've reflected upon it. And yes, people escalate too much. They actually escalate. What I'm fucking telling you is that the person who goes from having a bunch of severe insults addressed at them.
There's no such thing as severe insults, bro.
Then you just.
Hey, can y'all hear me?
If I called you an asshole,
can you hear me?
If you're not an asshole, why would you care?
You're begging the question.
If you know the truth, who you are inside, why would something be an insult that someone you don't know is flinging at you? Like, this doesn't make any sense, dude.
Why
would
a light push be aggression? It can't hurt me.
Liberal,
why would a light push be aggression?
Shit,
a light push can't cause any pain to me. It can't put me in the hospital. So the same fucking thing you're saying. Why should any amount of speech not be harmful? Why should
allowing the initial amount of force to an angry person? They're probably going to go beyond just the push if you allow them to push. They're probably going to do more.
Force. A light push is not force.
Instead of, hey, let's make a society where people don't do things like this. Let's just make laws and allow people to get away with bad behavior because someone once did something and it altered me for my whole life.
Anything involving any physical contact is definitionally aggression and force, and anything that involves no physical contact, no matter how severe the language is not aggression or force.
That cannot be what dude is saying. Physical contact could be love or affection. I'm sure he's not including those.
No, I'm saying, what I'm saying is
no one agrees with you here, dude. Have you seen all?
No, he got great points. I'd love to get in on him. I like his point of small physical touch. Is it really bad? I like that argument.
It happens all the time. And what I'm saying is going from the first light push to the fist fight is the much bigger escalation.
It doesn't matter. It's still a verbal to physical escalation that is completely unnecessary. The man before pushing someone, they can turn around and walk out.
Jeffrey, well, how bad is the difference between a light push and I'm going to say heavy verbal shit?
It's not about the light push. It's you're allowing a physical altercation to escalate over something.
I would agree with
verbal.
you.
And I'm saying physical versus non-physical is not a common sense categorical distinction between the different ways.
It's a terrible idea, Jeremy. You're allowing all kinds of terrible things to happen by allowing people to take things to physical.
Well, what are you,
Jeremy? If that's your name,
grouping
would
all
you
the
agree?
Physical together, you're allowing escalation.
Good arguments, both.
If someone yells at me, if someone calls me gay, I'm gonna stand up and leave.
Right. Jeffrey,
because I know I'm not, and it doesn't bother me. But someone's being crazy, and I don't want to hang out around crazy people. I'm not going to push the guy.
Two guys are pushing each other.
Dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Jeffrey, we're in a situation where two guys are pushing.
Don't call me gay. I'm gonna push you.
All right, look. Then one of the guys pulls out a knife. He introduces a weapon.
Yeah,
and then he starts stabbing the other guy.
Escalated. Yeah, and you
So-
allowed that escalation to that knife.
No, you are grouping. You are grouping the pushing together with pulling out a knife and stabbing.
You're just telling stories again. You're making this unusual.
This happens every
situation.
fucking day throughout the country, man. This happens every fucking day. This escalation.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be allowed.
And what you are
Definitely shouldn't
saying,
be allowed.
what
I'm
you
glad
are
it's
saying
not.
is that the line divides everything non-physical from everything physical. You are grouping all the physical together. And
that's because that's what physical means, dude. What do you mean?
In moral terms, and in terms of what escalation means, you're grouping all the physical interaction together. And
your whole thing is vague. It's too vague.
Hey, you guys are being a bit repetitive. If I could play a little
go ahead,
ref for you. Thanks. I think the cutoff ground here. I'm sorry, I'm coughing. Yeah, I had to I hit that too hard. I can't talk.
Oh, it's all right. I should have some of that too. I just got beer. The alcohol is making me aggressive. Good thing nobody's here.
Okay. I love your arguments. First of all, both of you guys seem pretty intelligent. I like dudes. What's your name? I don't know your names.
I'm Jeremy.
What's Jeremy? Okay.
You can put the names back on. He's Jeffrey. I know
Jeffrey and Jeremy. Jeffrey, I'm sorry, Jeremy has a good argument with once you're doing that verbal shit, it's very close to a physical altercation. And I think he's just trying to say, do you recognize that verbal, extreme verbal or whatever you want to call it? I got to be careful with the words there, but verbal can escalate and it's very close to fighting. Is there such a thing? Jeremy, I think you're saying no.
Sure.
By introducing physical, but allowing it, you're blurring the line. There should be a very hard line between verbal and physical. So this,
I think he's saying, but in reality, there is not.
Yeah, in reality,
the guy's in your face.
Dude, 9 out of 10 times someone screams at you, they're not going to fight you. They're all
agree at least.
Yeah,
it depends on the individual.
9 out of 10
the
times.
more they're talking, the less chance you're going to fight.
Pull out a weapon either.
If someone's going to do something, they're going to do it when you're behind your back and you're not going to even know. They're not going to come up and bump chests with you or anything. But yeah, I don't buy it, man. It's too wishy-washy, and it's just
the kind of argument that ethical.
Like, dude, if I have a problem with someone that gets me heated and I start yelling at them, if they hit me, I'm gonna fucking beat the shit out of them. Like, are you serious?
That sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
If they push you first, would you pull out a knife and start stabbing them?
No, absolutely not.
Because pushing and the knife are extremely different.
Been escalated.
Okay.
No, I do.
Not everything is the sharp line between the non-physical and the physical. Do
you cats believe in hate speech? Is that something you guys believe in?
Obviously, he does.
I mean,
I don't.
But I got to qualify because people are talking about
people don't use it to aggress on each other.
Yeah, people are talking about somebody who doesn't believe in trans ideology not wanting to use pronouns, not wanting to see somebody who looks like a man to them and call that person a her. Okay, I think calling that aggression is insane.
No, I don't think that falls under hate speech.
All right.
I don't think.
So yeah, when I'm talking about hate speech, I mean, I gotta qualify. I'm talking about like going up to somebody, starting the shit, and just using a bunch of slurs against them. Okay,
that's harmless, absolutely harmless.
So is a push.
Absolutely harmless.
So is a push,
especially if they don't know you.
You are right. So is a light push. Anyway, push can be a couple things, but a light push or someone poking you in the chest as they're talking to you. Yeah. Here's a light push for you. I'm poking you in the chest. Hey, buddy, if you don't so and so, have a light push. That shouldn't hit him in his mouth because of that shit, right? It's kind of like
absolutely right.
Words.
Your finger contacted their chest. Like Jeffrey's idea
no
is, if
different
your
than a
finger
small
gets like
push. What do you
one
mean?
inch,
I agree.
1
That's why I
inch in
use it.
front of their chest,
No
then it's
different than a
okay. But
small push.
if your finger contacts their chest, then they can beat the shit out of you because you started the
That's what
physical
you're
contact.
putting it in that
That's
zone.
yeah,
But
that's cop shit. If you touch me,
Yeah.
it's suddenly something crazy
Yeah,
has
that's
occurred.
called-
That's cop shit.
yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like what Jeffrey's principle would imply.
I like his argument as well. I do think there must be a line, especially if you're talking about legal, and that's where you might want to draw that physical. He's got an argument too. Both of you guys seem pretty smart.
Jerome, hey man, I got my teammate here.
Got some backup.
Hope we can go in and talk.
Okay,
Obviously, there
we'll
are
talk about this
situations
then.
where
We'll
words
talk
can
about
bring
what
more
he
harm
has
than
to say.
physical harm. Of course, there are. Of course.
Okay, so someone is slandering your business, right? And you're losing money, right?
Yeah.
So you should find them and go push them.
No, I haven't said any such
This
thing.
is what you're saying, though.
No, man.
Instead of taking all these other routes you can take, go push them and take it to a physical.
I'm saying that if a guy
on the street comes up to you and calls you a fag, you should push them because
I'm saying that
your feelings
if
are hurt.
you-
That can't be what
that,
he's saying. That can't be what he's saying.
I'm saying
That's
that
what
if
he's
you just go
saying.
find a black
That's
guy in
literally
the
what he
bar and you
said.
start shouting the N-word at him and talking about what his mother does for a living, and you don't
Why
even
would he
know him,
care if he
and
doesn't feel
and
like
he
any
gets
of
up
those
and he
things?
says, "Hey, back off."
9 out of 10,
you.
brothers.
He
You're
knows
right. You should
don't
not
know
hit
what you're
him.
talking about. Why would they care?
I think the
If your
brother's
friend-
wrong. I may hit him and I'd be wrong, right? I
No,
may hit him, but I can tell you I'd be wrong and I should
I
not.
agree. You shouldn't go straight from verbal slurs to hitting somebody. But what I'm saying is, if somebody is starting shit
You're
verbally,
fast
and
tracking
then
that though.
they get the first finger in their chest or they get the first light push, it's not the person that broke the magical physical body barrier who is
Sure
the
it is.
asshole in that scenario. It's the
I
person who
dig it.
started the shit, especially
I hear
if
you.
it's for no reason.
Well, the
Sticks
kind
and
of-
stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me.
Yeah,
Do
okay.
you remember that? Come on, man.
Argument
Like one of
by
the first things they
by-
teach us.
argument by kindergarten rhyme. Okay.
Yeah, it's a legit one, dude.
Valid. Well, that's
I'll
the
be
thing
right
too.
back
Is
in
there's
30 seconds. You guys talk.
oh,
I can hear you.
Yeah,
But there's-
what's up?
I was just gonna say, there's like, in some cultures, depending on like kind of people you're around, there are those kind of people who might walk up and they're not necessarily gonna push you, but they might give you a little like little smooch or something just to like mess with you, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, now I want to hit this guy. Those kind of situations. It doesn't necessarily matter like the type of touch, but it's like, is it consensual? Are you like in?
Well, yes, very good.
Yeah,
Very
because
good.
that is
Intent.
like
Right.
go ahead.
No, I think you're onto something. Intent. If the guy is, if I don't feel threatened and he's running his mouth, saying the same words that he may say in my face, and now suddenly I feel like he wants to fight and he's going to attack. If he's saying them across the room, it could be the same words. Intent. It can't be the words themselves.
Mm. And then the actions that resulted from all that, like, in those kind of situations where if somebody does get pushed, it's like they might look at what was being said, what was going on, but it's like still you always have that self-control, especially if you're in like an anarchist sort of society. It's like you should have that self-control to know I should take myself out of this situation.
Oh,
I
yeah.
got guys who talk
no argument
so
here. That's-
aggressively that they push you and stuff when they're making points and shit, and they can get heated and they're literally pushing me. You got to be like, man, can you do it without putting your fucking hands on me? But it's not where you want to beat them up or fight them.
So let me. I'm gonna make a rhetorical move against Jeffrey here. Okay.
Oh,
Jeffrey,
come on,
man.
dude. We've been talking about this like
That's
an hour.
So we know that there are women in relationships who like to lay their hands on men. They think they can get away with it. It's often combined with different kind of verbal abuse. So you think if the woman in a relationship starts laying her hand on the guy, like while they're having a verbal fight. She initiates the physical contact by pushing him or grabbing him, but then he is thereby morally justified for
Jeffrey
retaliating,
ready
even though he's
response. I
much
don't know.
stronger
I'm
and
looking
can
at his
beat the fucking
face.
shit out of her because she laid hands on him first.
How you think, Jeffrey?
No.
Okay, why not?
What's this? I'm not saying you're the one saying things should escalate. I'm not saying things should
Well,
escalate.
no.
I'm saying
But
people brains not bombs, bro.
But-
Like use your
but you're
brain
saying-
and leave.
You're
Like,
saying the main
you're
escalation is when she escalated the merely verbal, as you call it, non-aggression.
Of course
because
it
verbal
was.
Can't be aggression. She
That is
the
an
initial aggressor by laying
but
hands
that
on
doesn't
him.
mean that he can knock her out because she
Why
put
not?
her hands on him.
Why isn't that just self-defense?
That's what you're
She laid her
saying. You're
hands on-
saying you can
that's what you're
escalate.
saying. That's what you're saying. I'm not saying to escalate. I'm
No,
saying
Your original
that-
argument isn't
Jeffrey,
working,
I am
so you're
not-
trying
I
to
am-
you're trying
I
to
am
use
not
this
saying-
different
I'm telling you,
angle
I'm not
because
saying-
you've
I've been
lost.
Well,
saying-
Jeffrey, what
I'm
if it's a
saying
guy,
constantly,
Jeffrey?
I don't
If
support
it was a
escalate.
guy who slapped you, are you still saying
Allie
the same
could beat
thing?
the shit out of me any day of the week. I don't understand this all women are not as weak as men thing. Like
That's what I was
she
saying. I
was
wanted
called
to
the tiny
know.
Terminator in freaking karate when she was young.
Assume that it's
So-
the case, okay?
Jeffrey, were you saying walk away if the woman hits you?
Absolutely.
What if it's a man? Same thing.
Huh?
If it's a man who hits you, same
If you're
situation.
smart, yes, you would walk away. There's
Yeah.
no reason to continue to escalate things unless you feel your life is in danger.
I agree
Interesting.
that it's better to walk away. I oppose.
No, you
escalation.
don't. You
Yes,
don't. That's
yes,
all you
I do.
said. You
I
no,
have told you
you
100
absolutely
times.
don't.
You are just
You-
lying.
you-
You are just denying what I tell you 1 second before, Jeffrey. What the
No,
fuck?
you're doing this thing where you're all, oh well, I don't condone that, but I think it should be like. Have one argument. You either
do have
believe
one
it or
argument.
you don't.
The argument is that the biggest line is not this categorical line between everything non-physical and everything physical.
Nah.
If the woman,
You're always going to be in the lower percentile
Look,
with this argument,
look,
dude.
if
No,
my
you're
girlfriend in
not-
a verbal dispute
not great.
lays her hands on me first, then for me to respond and do something that can actually cause injury to her is a far, far, far greater escalation than the
No, it's not.
escalation that she
that's
did.
that's
from
only
the
if you're a
verbal to the
meathead who
push.
can't control himself. If you can control yourself, you could be like, okay, this lady's grabbing me. I'm going to stop her from grabbing me and walk out. If
Jeffrey,
you're
I'm
the
not
stronger
advocating-
guy,
I'm not
should be able to
advocating the
do that.
escalation. I'm
Instantly go for the
opposing
gun.
the
you
escalation.
are. Yes, you are.
I am
That's all you've been doing
opposing
the whole time.
No, all I've been doing is opposing
Escalating
escalation.
from verbal to physical is a escalation.
No, all I have been saying is that when people do various escalations, not what I'm advocating, not what I personally do, what I'm telling you is that escalating from the first light shove to punching somebody in the face is a much bigger difference of escalation than the verbal
Yes, but
dispute
you're
to the first
literally
shove.
you're condoning it by doing
no,
the
I'm not.
push, though. You're saying it's okay if we get violent, so let's do
No,
this.
no,
Basically,
I'm
yes,
absolutely
anyone's
not.
gonna take it
I'm
that
not.
way. Maybe you and your super intellectual
No,
hot take on this. Maybe you'd see it that way,
Just
but the
super
general
intellectual.
public is
God
gonna
damn,
see that as a
I'm
violent
speaking
escalation
the
from
most
verbal.
absolute widespread common sense, man. I'm not the abstract intellectual
This
one
is
here. You
liberal
are.
bullshit, dude. You should know better than this garbage.
Dude,
I'm shocked. Like,
what
I'm
utter-
absolutely
What
shocked.
utterly basic common sense tells us is that the person who's talking a bunch of shit, hurling a bunch of slurs at somebody else, creating that sort of verbal situation is
It's harmless, dude. You could
So
say
is the light
anything in
shove.
the world
so is
to
the light
me,
shove.
and
So
I'm
it's-
not gonna push you because
the
you
light
don't know me. You have no control over me. You have no power over me. So you can say
Man,
anything in
How
the
you gonna
world, and
tell
I'm
me
not
that a
gonna
light
touch you.
shove, a light
Not
shove
gonna touch you.
is a light shove
Now, fuck
harmless
this
or
light
harmful?
shove bullshit. It's violence.
It's nobody
It's-
using
it-
common
it-
sense English
Invitation
would
for
call a light
escalation.
shove
is
violence.
Violence. It's
You're
violence.
defining
All
it
right,
as
let's
violence.
escalate the
You are the
words
one,
to their
Jeffrey, you
furthest.
are the one doing the bullshit intellectual definition of something that nobody, based upon common sense, would call violence, defining it as violence just because it involved physical contact.
No, you've based your whole argument off some trauma you had when you were a kid. You
Oh,
already told
Jesus
us
Christ.
earlier.
Oh, fuck.
What if we
No,
escalate
it's
the
in the
words to
word.
I said no
It's
such thing. Anybody who came in
violence
late,
means
I
a
did not have any
violation
significant
occurred.
trauma as a kid. My views here are not based upon something that did not exist. I had a great childhood.
If you touch me, you're
Jeffrey is
violating my property rights.
Jeffrey's just making up fucking shit.
what if we take the words to threats? Does that change?
I'd say so.
I'd say so.
But you gotta, like you can't just walk around with a gun staring at everyone and being crazy. Like you have to like chill and look at the surroundings and read the room and be like, okay, can I get everyone out of here safely? If not, all right, let's fucking do this. Like every
I understand.
situation is different. You can't just make this
Yeah.
blanketing statement. Everyone
I
should be able to
completely agree with
escalate.
that. Every
Like,
situation.
But
I
but
did
suddenly
not make that statement,
the
and
dividing
I
lines was
completely
not
agree.
words and
Every
physicality anymore. He crossed the line merely by words then when he threatened me.
if you feel your life is in danger, that's a completely different story.
Feel?
Yeah,
Someone's
you
just
incite violence
saying,
with words.
someone
Feel?
calling you names at a bar
wait.
is
So
not
this-
a
Wait,
life.
what'd you say about fighting
Feel?
words,
Feel?
Braxton Hyper? What'd you say?
Or
I'm
have,
saying
have
if you incite violence with your words, then that's what, if you're making somebody worried for their life because you're like threatening them, then that's where you're like, okay, let's figure out what's going on here.
If you're gonna call some fighting words, it must be a threat with me. It can't be my mama, no shit like that.
Yeah.
And if you
I'm
take
gonna
them
kill you
serious,
and your wife and your kids right now. That's like,
it-
okay, well,
especially if he has a reputation for doing crazy shit and has done something in the past, and now he's threatening you with it. I'm gonna burn down
You
your
don't ever-
house, and you know he did it before.
oh yeah.
you don't always know stuff about people though, so you gotta,
That's true,
be
too.
able to, you
Yeah,
gotta
read the
do
situation.
something. You're gonna have to do something. You're gonna have to defend in court, basically.
You call dude a liberal. Does that mean politics
Yeah.
are on the table?
Of course,
I'm
always.
not
No,
in the
this
American
this
stance.
podcast is for anyone to talk about anything they want. Who's an activist?
I love that. I hate going places where they say politics and religions are off the topic. That off the table. You know that the whole room's going to be lame and motherfuckers scared to talk about any subject down there.
Oh yes, I agree.
So political. So is Trump going to win, guys? Trump going to win this time?
Probably not.
There's
Couldn't
no
care
way he
less,
doesn't win,
honestly.
right? Zero chance he doesn't win.
Joe,
I think,
the American political system is a reality TV show to distract us from the fact that we have no choice whatsoever.
Very
and
good.
like,
Very
so paying
good.
attention to it is completely kind of like pointless. And
No,
like,
I'll tell
the
you why
energy-
it's not.
Your energy could be
It's like
put
watching Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
I'm with you on that, except for one thing. I'm an activist, and I run around talking to people a lot, especially trying to talk dumbass cops and government officials out of their weird philosophies. And in order to speak that language, sometimes you got to watch that bullshit. Those guys who put that script together is the enemy. Sometimes you need to know what the enemy is planning. So sometimes you gotta watch that garbage. It sucks, but I feel like I hate watching fucking, especially mainstream media. But man, I'll put it on in the background because I gotta keep an eye on them fucks. And it comes in handy when two blind motherfuckers is debating who's worse, Trump or Biden. And you have to talk them down. It helps to know shit when you're talking about it.
What's crazy these days, man, is the mainstream news isn't the mainstream anymore. Like, it's like these
It's far from it.
dudes, Tim Pool and stuff like that are like
Yes.
mainstream news.
Which, if you think about it,
Joe Rogan is the mainstream media.
Oh, that was a good one. If you think about it, you're familiar. I think it was Operation Mockingbird or something, where the CIA infiltrated all the news stations and blah blah blah, had people working for them and all of that shit. Now you get this buck wild west internet shit, and you got motherfuckers like Joe Rogan and shit. You think they just give up control, or do they find a way to get Joe Rogan now?
Joe's a major part of the brainwashing with the world right now. He's like a major gatekeeper. If like he's been like he's got handlers, all his information is like he's not doing that podcast. It's being done for him. He just shows up and talks
You
to
better
these guys.
believe that, yes, he's not doing all that research. Half the topics are there. So yes, they can get control that way by putting what's in front of them. And I'm not so sure because he leans, in my opinion, he leans one side or another. All that shit's a myth. I know
flip
he's
flops. Yeah, he flip flops. Whoever's on his show, he's that's
soft
like he's
on the
like known for
interviews.
that.
Yes, fucking. What's the other guy? Russell Brand. Admire the fuck out of him, but he's soft as hell when the interviews come on, man. I don't give a fuck who it is, man. He's suddenly friendly as fuck with him. I don't like that. You can be friendly, but you gotta question them on those fucking on the hard shit.
Yeah.
I was looking at Oklahoma Senator Gaham. I think Gaham. That's how you spell it. He's putting forth a bill. As a matter of fact, I think he did it today, so maybe I was reading about it yesterday. He's putting forward a bill that says, in order for you to be considered media, in order for you to make an article or post some shit on YouTube, you got to be media. And the way that's determined is you have to go through an 8-hour propaganda class where they teach you what misinformation is. You have to have $1 million insurance policy. You got to take out insurance. You have to pass a background check. You have to pass a drug test every 4 months. That dope test, drug test will be repeated. You have to go to this one particular school in Oklahoma, which I looked into, and they just happen to be a right-wing, damn near Christian so-and-so, but they're the ones who are going to teach you the class of what propaganda is, and whatever. And probably a couple more hoops that is not coming to me right now. But then, then the Oklahoma something commission will decide after all of that if they give you a card that says you media. And you must do that before you post any fucking thing. This is the bill he's proposing.
They run these kinds of bills through the cycle every year, basically. This kind of stuff is made to like scare people into listen. They're like people like as long as we're scared of our neighbors, like we're always going to be split as a country. And doing the whole Democrat Republican thing is really a problem in this country. People need to stop at that.
I thought that thing was simply scare tactic too, but researching this, I thought a little different, and I'm familiar with them. I can tell you about a lot of them, of these scare tactic shits where they're going to curb your rights dramatically like that. But this time, after I investigated it, first thing I did was I sent it to some friends. I was like, what lobbyist wrote this? I'm sorry, my internet goes in and out. What lobbyist wrote this nonsense? And it turns out that he was close to a college flagger or something. I can't think of the name of it. I know, right? Is that a fuck? Is it midnight? Is it full moon?
Jeremy's changing.
Don't escalate.
Right? You better lock the door, bro.
They're brothers, but one's white and the other's black. They have some issues.
Sounded like a freaking saber-tooth tiger.
Yeah, it's prehistoric. What the short version is, I do think that the college found a senator who they could pay. They wrote the fucking bill, and it made me think, how many of these other bills are written by some fucking lunatic, and the senator pockets the money. He don't care whether he know it ain't gonna pass, but he got a cool $500,000 or something to put it on the floor. I bet a lot of it is strictly pay. That's what I thought today anyway.